Testing 1, 2, 3. Good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome to our Wednesday morning class coming to you from HeartLight Spiritual Center. In Charlotte, for you that might be joining us online or later, we want to welcome you to our Wednesday morning class. This series of classes right now that we are dealing with is about sound and frequency and vibration and how that we can use our voice for vibration, but we can also use tools like tuning forks also for vibration. Or we can use bowls, or we can use bells. There's many things that we can use, but the voice is a very powerful tool to use for the body, so we're kind of doing that. We learned last Wednesday something called a full body sound sequence, in which we learned that there are different sounds on the body. So this is one we did not do. Before we came on with those that were here for the exercise, we did what we did last Wednesday again, but we did not do this one, which is by Deepak Chopra, of the sound ah, like a small a. If you do it low, like ah, it does your stomach and does this. You'll just feel it. So if you want to do that with me, we're going to go ah. Just feel that go down into the stomach. Ah. For the ears, if you've got any ear situations going on, is the sound knee, N-E-E. Knee, knee, e. Yep, feel that? Feel the vibrate? That's your TMJ, all of that in here. Knee. Again, knee. Feel it in here. Okay. The throat is ga or ka. I just do them both. Ga, ka. So it'd be ga, ka. Ga, ka. You should feel that all in your throat. Ga, ka. Ha is for the lower stomach or your intestines or the colon area, is ha, ha, ha. For say sinuses is ma, M-A, ma, ma, ma. Feel that M? Ma, ma. So we know that certain sounds vibrating in certain aspects of the body are connected to certain subtle bodies. They're connected to the etheric body, they're also to the glands of the body, and also to what we call the energy centers of the body, the chakras. And when we vibrate chakras are connected to different organs of the body. So I really encourage all of us, including myself, to try to do some kind of voice sound, frequency sound every day, at least once. If you can do it more than that, if you have the opportunity to be resting in the afternoon or doing something, please just take the opportunity, because it doesn't cost anything. You can sit there and just do it anywhere or whatever, and there's just no excuse for us to use some of these simple tools like this. This is not something you have to go to a 16-hour workshop to learn. You don't have to pay hundreds of dollars to get it. This is just something that anybody can do. And so I hope that you can find the value on that. So today we're going to address and focus on the vagus nerve and what happens in vagus stays in Vegas. Couldn't help it, sorry. So let's talk about the vagus nerve a little bit. The vagus nerves is a mixed sensory and motor nerve that wanders into the thorax, abdomen, and the parasympathetic intervention with all the organs. The word vagus comes from the word wanderer, because it wanders through the body. And I think you've got a picture of it, how it goes through the entire body. So when you're doing this like we did earlier and activating your vagus nerve, you are really affecting a lot of things in your body. But one of the main things that you're doing, you're putting yourself out of sympathetic to parasympathetic. If you know what I mean by those, one of them is fight and flight, which people are very much into right now. People are very ready to run or to fight you. So people, that's the most unhealthy place to get in. Now, if you saw a tiger coming at you, you'd want to get into fight and flight and run or do something, but then it'd be over. But when people stay there and get stuck in that fight and flight, it shuts down the system. When the worst thing that happened, and by the way, this is 9/11, and we want to recognize this day and those who gave themselves to that event. And I do think it was an event that was part of changing everything. So we honor those. What was I saying for that? 9/11. 9/11. Yes. Yeah, that's the thing that Bush did that I disagreed with. He put everybody kind of in mode of fight and flight, be scared, be very scared. You know, they're not through, the terrorists are among us, you know, and everybody shut down to it. And then we had colored codes in the airport. You know, there was orange and there was this. It was just all around us was to tell us to be in fight and flight and to be tense. The thing was, to me, he didn't take us out of that. He left us in it. Then he says, America is open for business. Well, you can't grow in fight and flight. There's no growth. So it's important that people take responsibility of turning themselves back to the parasympathetic level of being calm and productive and creative. So this is what I hope can be. I think this is not talked about enough. I don't think people know about it enough, and yet it's one of the most important things to keep activated. Activity. Anyway, in your body is this vagus nerve. So, a measure of how fast your body reverts from your sympathetic nervous system back to your parasympathetic system is going to be by activating the vagus nerve. In other words, resilience. That means you can recover faster from anything. If you get trapped into a lower base emotion, such as anger or grief or fear or anxiety or any of those kind of things, if you would just stop and activate your vagus nerve, you could bring you out of it quicker and rebalance you and recenter yourself back into your parasympathetic. In other words, how well you bounce back after a stressful event is also known as resilience. I'll get ahead of myself. Higher vagal tone, the body reaches ideal resting state faster. Some of the negative effects of not having a vagus nerve that is activated is blood pressure, blood sugar, digestion, and immune function. And I would think we all need to be very aware of doing everything we can to activate our immune systems right now. I think they're extremely low. I think due to COVID and through probably vaccines and everything else that's gone on, that it has lowered the immune systems of the collective population as never before. So that means we're more receptive to things than we usually would be, because we don't have the defense mechanism. But the low tonal tones has been linked to chronic inflammation. The second biggest after immune is inflammation. I think inflammation is behind so many illnesses and sicknesses that you want to deal with that. To strengthen the vagal tone is to breathe slow and deep. Now, I know we hear so much and we do a lot of this breathing, but we just do it because somebody says, breathe. Let's breathe. It's really got to become a natural part of the system. It's got to come from you. How many of you are finding several times throughout the day that there's just kind of a subtle reminder to breathe? I mean, you might be standing in the line in the grocery store, or just going about your daily business and what you're doing, and all of a sudden it just comes into your mind and you find yourself just taking a deep, slow breath. This is because something is trying to reset itself. That means that whatever circumstance your life is in, the world you're living in, is maybe a little off, or has gone into dissonant. And therefore, when you come back to using the sound to activate your vagus nerve, then it brings us back into alignment again. Stress. Being frequently stressed can lower the vagal nerve. Oh my God, help us all. There's so much stress in life today. There's stress in driving down the internet. There's just stress that everybody's shooting everybody and don't know if you're safe anywhere or whatever. I mean, this is the world we live in. But I keep saying, not much we can do about living in it, but we can do something about not being of it. That makes sense? Yep. And that is what we're doing here with all these things that we're doing here at HeartLight, is trying to help us to be in a world that is breaking down, but not of the breakdown. We want to be of the breakthrough. So everything we're trying to do, every workshop, the Friday meetings, that's going on here, all these different things that are going on with us here is all because we're working with what's breaking through. And that's what we're calling for communication, fifth dimensional energy. We're just talking about energy from a higher state than 3-4 times space is coming in to the planet, and it's causing havoc. And there's no other way that it's not. I wish there was a smooth transition. I really wish. I'm sure that old caterpillar just wish he could go to sleep and wake up as the butterfly and not have to go through that process of breakdown. I just pretend to be that little caterpillar in its last days, the end of the world of the caterpillar, the end time of the caterpillar. Everything enters an end time. And it goes, I feel different. I don't feel myself. Anybody ever had that feeling? Days I just don't feel myself. I don't feel like the world that I see around me is my home. And all of a sudden there's this innate thing within some of us who start looking to the stars. We start looking to writings about Palladian, or writings of Atlantis, or Orion, or I don't know, wherever your source is. Now, I'm not asking you to agree or disagree with me, but this world is not my home. This planet is not my home. I came here. I chose to come here. I'm on assignment here. I am the divine being you call God on assignment, as David. You are what you believe God is on assignment, as Rhonda. Benta, and so on and so forth. You are God on assignment. I have a book written with that on it. God on assignment, the real message of incarnation. Yes. So we need to learn tools that helps breakthrough to happen while breakdown is going on. And I know I say this and say it over and over again, but the tendency of the old egoic self is to survive. It wants to survive. It wants what it was to survive. It wants the past to survive and repeat itself again. It wants America to be great again. No, I'm not trying to say that just on a political level, but this definition of again, it was behind us, is ridiculous when everything is before us and in us. What's greater than before us is what's in us. Are you with me? Mm-hmm. It is in us. So we can learn to be in this. But what I was going to say, the tendency of the egoic world in us is to fix what's breaking down. And that's what half, I think, of some of the population has fallen for, is the best times was behind us. And of course, if you are a certain human, you might see the past as a better, more innocent time. If you're more of the subcultures of the world, the indigenous of the world, I don't know that you would look at the past as something so great that you want to go back to. But I'm going to say something here, and I'm going to say it by the Spirit. There's nothing wrong with going back and doing back work. Just don't get stuck back there. When you get back there and find back things, bring them into the present level of consciousness that you are in. Bring them with you. Don't get stuck with them. Does that make sense to you? That's why there's a thing going on. Okay, I don't want to deal with anything. I want to move forward. But you can't really move forward until you clean up some of the past unresolved issues. So I do believe in the work, I call it. I do believe in the work. I do believe that what I do with tuning forks and what others do in that level. But the thing is don't get stuck back there. It's important that you can go back there, but you're not at that level of consciousness that it happened. So let's say you want to go back and you just never gotten over some kind of abuse. Mental, psychological, sexual. It's just something that really was a traumatic part of your life. Maybe happened 20, 30 years ago or whatever, but it's still there kind of in the background, kind of affecting how you live your life. Maybe, I'll try to give you an example, I don't know. But if I was somebody who, say, had been raped, that's a horrible traumatic experience of being raped. But if you're a woman have been raped, you might carry in you at a deep level a distrust to men. And you have every right to. That every man you see at a subconscious level reminds you that a man was the one who raped you. This can also happen, a man raping another male or whatever. It doesn't matter what gender, but I'm saying you just don't realize that these things that are traumatic to you still hold parts of itself in the blueprint that is still affecting us. And I think you have to be careful about some of the positive new thought thinkings, that all you have to do is now just jump up to a positive thinking level and ignore what's coming along with you in the unconscious. Because the unconscious is always stronger than the conscious. It really is. You have more of yourself. Right now, you're sitting in this chair, you're listening to me, you're probably not aware of much of anything else than the moment. but doesn't mean it's not there. It is there, even though you're not thinking about it, even though it is not a mental part of your consciousness, doesn't mean it's not there. That's why we have to go into the shadow part of ourselves. That's why we have to have the dark side of the soul, the dark night of the soul. You've got to go through the dark night of the soul to really get to the light. At least I think that.
That's certainly not a new thought, David. I was just thinking one of the logos on a business that I had in Bermuda is called a Sankofa bird. And in Ghana, that symbol, it's a bird that's looking back over its shoulder like that. And what you just explained is exactly what that symbolizes, that it's okay to look back.
Just don't go back.
And bring forward that which needs to be brought forward.
Perfect.
Dealing with that.
Thank you. That's exactly what I'm saying to you. It's all right to look back, grab it, and go, well, I have done all this work to get to this level of consciousness that I can look at this differently than when it happened. See? So I'm going to raise the frequency of the memory up to the level of consciousness I've attained. See? So now there is not the gap or the blind spot. You understand me? It's called blind spots in consciousness, where the ego sets its illusions to make them real. I did a whole talk on it at the University of Metaphysics. I did a whole research on blind spots of consciousness. Like you think you're seeing me, the whole me, you think you're seeing everything in the story. You're not. You're seeing about half of it. Just check me out. The eyes are taking in about half of the data of what's out here, putting it into the brain, the optical nerve, and the brain makes a picture, and then the brain fills in the other half with its memory. That's why we're constantly, always, a day late and a dollar short. Most of the time. Scripture is clear about it. Paul said we only see in part, we only know in part, and when that which is perfect has come, we shall behold it face to face, face value for what it is. Are you with me? So if we're only seeing 50% of what's out there, but it looks whole, then the ego is filling it in with what's in the past memory to make it appear to be whole things. This is why it's so difficult to judge, because we only have half the true information about something in the present. The rest of it is filled in by memory. What do I mean by that? You meet somebody and you don't know why you don't like them. You just don't like them. You don't know why. There's just something about them you just don't click with. You just don't like them. And you don't even know them. You don't know anything about them. There's just something about them symbolically that you don't like. So I'll tell my story, and I've told this before, but when I was coming to Course in Miracles and learning about projection and all of that, indulge me to tell the story. I was going to Louisville, Kentucky from Indianapolis every month to speak. It sounds like a long way, but it was an hour and a half drive down to Indy to. And there was a lady that came to my meetings that I just didn't like. I was suspicious of her. She was a lovely lady. She was very nice and kind to me. And I told the people from my team who was coming with me, there's something about that woman I do not trust. I'm getting a bad vibe. And I start projecting on her all this stuff about somebody I did not know at all. So one Tuesday night, I was there and she was late and she came in through the door, and I had just taught that morning A Course in Miracles thing about what we don't want to see in ourselves, we project on others. And all of a sudden I looked at her and I realized that at some level she looked like my ex-wife. She was reminding me, I wasn't even conscious of it until that moment. And I realized She looks like my ex-wife, and I therefore was connecting her to a past experience with somebody else that I had, that I was projecting on her and feeling my experience with my ex-wife on her. And I got to know her when I saw that. I went through it, and we were friends for years and years and years. She was a lovely person, but that's the judgment that you want to stay away from right there. You don't want to say, I don't be judgmental. Then don't do it by just seeing things half. And then the other half being the ego mind, borrowing from the memory of other things that you have experienced that has some similarity to that person, condition, or place that is in your subconscious mind. Now, using my prototype, Yeshua, this is my prototype. Find your own. If you don't like mine, get somebody. Somebody who's done it. You need a prototype of somebody that said, I'm human and I did it, and you can too. If you don't have one of those, I feel for you. I feel you're on a lost, curvy path that don't know where you're going. But I know where I'm going, because I have a prototype. I have somebody in my mind that made it. But here's the thing I wanted to share with you about my prototype. My prototype represents myself after I have crucified all of my ego. But I had to go to Golgotha. That's where the crucifixion was, on the mountain of Golgotha. Look up the word Golgotha in Hebrew. It is skull. It is skull. Something in the brain needs to be undone. That's what crucifixion means, according to A Course in Miracles. And Jesus, through the Course in Miracles, said that crucifixion is the undoing of the ego part of ourself. So a lot of this emotional pain that some of us are going through, even bouts of depression or anxiety or any of those kind of things, if we would learn not to own it and realize it's not us, but it's our ego that's depressed. It's our ego that's losing it. It's our ego that is being undone. And it's doing it with a noise. It says the old earth shall pass away with a noise. And the noise is, to me, the noise of, oh no, how could this be happening to me? I'm a highly spiritual being. I should not be depressed or discouraged. You're not. Your ego is. Your pseudo-self is being undone. The light is getting so bright, it's diminishing the darkness and the shadow. For I shall walk through the valley of the shadow of death, and I'll fear no evil, for thou art with me. You can't go around the shadow. You got to walk through the shadow of the valley of death to find out that there is no death. It's only death from the shadow of the past memory situation. Does that make any sense to you at all? So be careful about how you're reacting to people. And it goes on here too. Don't think it doesn't. There's people that I'm not sure about this one. I don't know if I like him or her. I'm not sure if that one connects with me. Whatever. Be careful. We're small, but we'll lose community if you start judging each other based upon something that's not healed in yourself being projected on them, because they remind you of something. And the thing is, it's subtle. The ego always works in the subtle aspects of our energy bodies. So therefore, it's not something that is just, I know what I'm doing. And then the ego turns it into a spiritual thing. See, with that woman, the Spirit said to me, you have discernment. You have discernment of the Spirit. You're discerning this woman. You're feeling something's wrong with her. You're discerning her. No, I wasn't. I was projecting her. I was projecting on her. When I healed that in me, then I healed it in that which I was projecting upon.
I'd say something.
Oh,
Yeah.
I was just gonna add that anytime people are extremely emotional about someone else's situation, for instance, let's say if someone's gay, why are you emotionally impacted about what someone else does in the privacy of their home?
All right.
Mm-hmm.
How does that affect you? What about it makes you upset? It has to be a reflection in themselves.
In some way.
Amen.
In some way.
I totally believe that. I
Yeah.
totally believe that. I totally believe how we react. Yes.
I think there was another part of this, though. I remember one of the courses that I was taking, and that ego part that talks about discernment, you know, it's like, okay, so how do we know the difference when we have an intuition about a situation and we don't? My teacher said, because there's no heat on it.
Mm.
There's no heat on it. There's no emotion attached to it. It is only
I like that.
the observer in us that is observing. So if we're observing and we're neutral about it, we can trust that that is spirit within exercising our inner intuition and knowledge, our gnosis, as you would say.
Yes. I love it. I love it. And spirit is neutral. Spirit knows no either, it does not know good nor bad, dark or light or whatever. It's the most neutral aspect of ourself that we can come to. So thank you for that, and thank you for that. Those are great things. So I hope that this little extra talk here can help you be more aware of being the observer and not being caught into an emotion or feeling that you have about another person or another thing. Learn to be still. Learn to return to sacred pause. Learn to find still point. Learn to find that which is between the thoughts and move into Christ consciousness. And then healing can take place between that. I hope that makes some sense to you, but as the position I'm in here, and hearing little things once in a while about who doesn't jive with somebody, and I don't know if I like that person or it's here, and I wish it wasn't. I wish I could say that this entire group was raised to a level that we're not dealing with that, but I think I need to take another look at that and realize this is the place for it to come up.
Yes, that's it really.
That's what this space is supposed to be. Not to come here and suppress. But that's going to take a maturity too, because when it comes up and you start reacting, get in reactive mind, and start getting offended and start pulling back and move into that, then that's not going to work either. So we've got to keep that spiritual connection, right? And be able to deal with things at the same time, but always come back to spirit. Don't get caught out there somewhere in the ego's world. Anyway, poor diet, eating a lot of processed foods can harm your vagus nerve. Poor sleep can impact the vagus nerve. So we taught vagus nerve a little bit in Soma Energetics, and I brought that little bit, it's a very small part out of the book, called the auditory system and tuning forks. And I want to share with you. An important aspect of Soma Energetics is the sounding of these powerful frequencies into the nervous system through the auditory system. And this is taken by our reference is Dr. Alfred Tomatis, a leading French doctor philosopher who developed a new multidisciplinary science called audiopsychophonology. APP. APP. Tomatis explains why the way we listen has a profound impact on almost all aspects of our being. In his research, he discovered that nearly all cranial nerves lead to the ear. In particular, the ear is anatomically and structured closely and related to the optic and the oculomotor nerves, and therefore is a part of vision and movement and all that kind of thing. They're also related to the vagus, 10th cranial nerve. The nerve affects the larynx, the bronchi, the heart, the gastrointestinal tract, and thus our breathing and our heart rate and our digestion. All control the vagus nerve. If the vagus nerve is not working, you're going to have issues in all those places in your body. And the ego is going to try to make you think that's what needs to be treated, is the digestion. But maybe the digestion is because of the lack of activation of energy moving through the vagus nerve. If we got the energy to move through the vagus nerve, maybe that would correct itself and self-heal. But see, we go run to the doctor. I'm confessing. Confession's good. I'm not putting myself on a pedestal up here. You know, I'll run to the digestive aid at times because when I get in my human ego self, I'm reactive. I'm not thinking. I'm not conscious. I'm just reacting. I don't want it. Get rid of it. I don't want to understand it. But when I get into my higher self, says, let's look at this. Observer. You got to play the observer and go, wait a minute. I learned that this is an effect. It's not the cause. Anyway. Alfred Tomatis, individuals who are right ear dominant learn more easily. The right ear is connected to the left brain, the place where language is processed. So when we did tuning forks, part of our technique, we call it the ABBC, B1, B2. A is auditory, B was balance, B2 was bridge, and C was connect. And that was our first phase energy. So when we start everything at A. Everything that you do in Soma Energetics started with A, and that was with 2 tuning forks in the ear. Crossing over the corpus callosum, right and left brain, into the ear. Now, I have put this sound and frequency in through the ear into the 10th cranial nerve and into the vagus nerve. And when I tell somebody that I tune, don't think that everything's going to happen to you is while you're on this table. Because once I put it into the auditory system, it stays there 3 to 7 days in some cases. Everybody's different, but it remains to work. So you may have an experience later, you may have a dream, you may have a breakthrough, you may have an epiphany, you may have something, because the frequency is, I'm only activating you this hour on the table, but I'm only activating. I'm not finishing anything, I'm starting something. Are you with me? So, the right ear is connected to the left brain, the place of language possessed. The left ear, however, is connected to the right brain, where language is not processed. Light language. If you are out of your left language, which is terrestrial language, you know what I mean? Terrestrial language? I mean the languages of Earth, whether it's Latin or Sanskrit, I don't care what it is, it's still language. It's left side, but you get to the right side, you're out of the language of the brain, and light language can come in and remain in its purest form of light. Because the minute you try to talk light language and interpret it, you've stepped it down. It's no longer pure language. And I'm planning to do this with you because there's a lot of things we can. It's not just speaking in tongues as light language. There's many ways to do light language. that has nothing to do with that. So you that are not connecting to that part of it, you'll connect to something else, I'm sure. You can do mudras and do light language. You can do signs. You can do many, many things that is light language. I am so tempted to do something now.
Do it.
Do
Go
it.
for it.
I don't know how it'll go.
It'll be okay.
We won't know till we try.
Rhonda, say, Kamala, Kamala, five times, as fast as you can.
Kamla, Kamla, 5-5, Kamla, Kamla, 5-5, Kamla, Kamla, 5-5, Kamla, Kamla, 5-5, Kamla,
Okay.
Kamla, 5-5.
She can speak light language. Because I believe that Kamala is a light that's coming in to our deal. I'm just trying to show you something. Randall did that really as a joke, but I thought, well, that's interesting. Just to show that it doesn't have to be unknown tongues of some kind, but it can be bringing in words that represent and symbolize light. Now, she may not represent light to you, but she does to me, so that works with me. So whoever your light focus is, just start saying it over and over and over. Maybe it's, I don't know, Buddha, 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 or whoever your God, goddess is that you kind of gravitate to. Just begin to start there and just say it over and over and over again. Dr. Tomatis is also called the Einstein of sound, believing that sacred chants charge the brain. Tomatis' method combines Mozart recordings, Gregorian chants, solfeggio, and spoken word. You can learn more about him from www.tomatis.com. He is no longer alive, but his clinics are all over the world for dyslexia, for any kind of brain things that he has done. So, that's the power of using sound through the auditory system. So if you have a couple of, say, tuning forks or a couple of any things that vibrate, I still like the tuning forks because this is raw vibration. There's no melody, there's no tone to them. It's just raw vibration. And I know we like pretty. Can you do the bowls? The bowls are pretty to most people, not to everybody. But you see, I don't want pretty. I don't want to attach to your emotional body at all. Tuning forks does not make you feel emotional. In fact, it almost shuts down that part of you that feels. Now, you may get an intuition or an experience, but it's not about feeling pretty. Sometimes when I use these solfeggio forks, people say, oh my God, they sound just horrible. Like, what have I gotten into? Because they're dissonant sounds. Because we live in a dissonant world. So you've got to meet things where they are. So dissonant means dissonant. Where the technique came in was to tune the dissonance to resonance. So somewhere in the use of the forks that sounded terrible and out of tune, they came into tune and started sounding beautiful. And there was a shift because it's called tuning. Huh? If you got a piano, remember that? The little guy came with a little tuning fork and tuned the strings. Tightened, loosened, until he found the right balance of the sound waves together. So this is a very powerful thing to put in the auditory system. Okay.
Can I jump in?
Sure.
Okay, let me get this to the right slide, sorry. There, that's the one I want. Okay. Yeah, if you look on your screen there. Okay, so a lot of the vagal nerve information he's been sharing is from Jim Donovan. He has courses online that are really good called Vagal Nerve Stimulation. You can see those at donovanhealth.com. And if you want interested in more in tuning forks and using them and things like that, the company that we sold, Soma Energetics, you can get there through David's affiliate link, somadavid.com.
Yes, I'm still not totally disconnected to the tuning forks. I just don't own them and can't sell them, but I can lead you to where they are, and I'll get some kind of recognition for doing that. But that's not my purpose. My purpose is to continue to educate and to teach people about these powerful frequencies that has been restored in our time. Our time. They've been lost so many times through history, but you know, the third time's a charm. And the third time was 1974, when it was given back and restored back to Dr. Pulio in 1974. So I like things that are kind of our time. See, everything doesn't have to be of their time, but we need what is of our time. And the solfeggio frequencies are part of the restitution or restoration of all things that were lost, has been refound again. The Catholic Church did some wonderful things in its pre-organized level, because all these religions have a pre area before they was organized by man. And when the Catholic Church was using pure Latin and singing the Gregorian chants in Latin and using the solfeggio frequencies, there was wonderful things that was happening. People were being connected with the divine. People were finding healing. They were finding all kinds of wonderful things. But it was without the church. Hear what I'm saying? People were finding it on their own. And the church said, no, we want to control what God or Spirit does. And therefore, they begin to change the thing by bringing in, his name was Guido of Azero, and said, let's teach this differently. Let's teach a shortcut. So he took out, and the first thing that he saw was ut, quint laxus, and said, we can't have that because that's not a vowel. It's out. Let's put do in. And then the next thing we know, we have do a deer. And all of the deep meanings were lost in that do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, a deer, a female deer. All of that is such watered down that we lost the true vibrations of the sounds. But they've been restored back to us, and I'm blessed that it came into my hands. I'm not the starter of the solfeggio, but I'm the starter of the techniques of the solfeggio. I was the first one teaching. People had them, didn't know what to do with them, and I started getting the downloads on how to use them, and they became the teaching classes for 24 years of Soma Energetics. So auditory is tremendously important. There are electrical things out there that you can order for vagus stimulation, but they might be a little expensive. There's even places you can go and get shot in the vagus and activate it for psychological reasons. That's expensive. But the best way is just use the vibration of your voice or a tuning fork. Will do just as good, I think, in doing that. So,
could you cover the importance of a higher vagal tone? Should be one of your slide pages, maybe page 7 or so.
the higher, yeah.
Importance of higher vagal tone. There's 2
Yeah.
slides.
The higher vagal tone is associated with better cardiovascular health and increased stress resilience. When vagal tone is high, it signifies effective regulation of heart rate, blood pressure, vital functions, contributing to a healthier heart and efficient cardiovascular system.
There's one more, but we'll go to the next page, or is it on
That's all I have right now. So, remember when we did this one? What was our sound for the heart? Hands on chest. When we crossed our hands on the chest, and we did Om. Still going to do that with me? because we did that earlier, but you that weren't here. Take a deep breath in. Every day. I mean, really, it doesn't take a lot of our time just to stop and just do these things throughout basically the day. So what are the common treatments for vagus nerve disorders? Dietary changes, medicines to raise nausea and medicines to ease nausea and abdominal pain, regulate blood sugar, and improve stomach emptying. These are treatments for gastroparesis. Feeding tubes or deliver nutrition to your bloodstream. I guess this is the what messes it up, right? Gastrostomy, gastrostomy to create an opening in the stomach and relieve pressure. So sometimes when some of us have had surgeries and they put tubes in us, it's not a great thing. Treatments for this is consuming less salt diet. Now, this salt thing, I don't think they quite have it quite right, because I think we need salt, but we need good salt. Like Himalayan is a good salt. In fact, I understand that you should put a little piece of Himalayan salt under the tongue every morning because it activates the powerhouse of the, oh my goodness, what are they called? The mitochondria. Yeah, so it activates. That's the power for the day would be activated by a little salt or salt water or warm water and lemon and a little salt is a very good one to start your day out with in that way. Stopping medicines that lower blood pressure, I cannot tell you to do that. I'm not a medical doctor, but I think there's a lot of new reports coming out about some of these medications. And what they're for is wrong, especially statins. They're just finding out statins does not make the difference on who has a heart attack or not. You can be on high, low, or none and still have a heart attack of some kind. So I have remained on a small amount because of having quadruple bypass. They kind of feared me that way, that because I've had it, I need it. If I didn't have that, then they would say no. So I'm like this. Some nights I forget it on purpose. So I'm trying to find my own way with that, but I'm working with it. So there's just ways you can do all these things, but I just think right now what we're talking about is using the power of sound and vibration and frequency. Be sure and bring it somewhere into your life, into your day in some way that you can do the auditory. David Tame, who wrote a wonderful book called The Secret of the Power of Music, says, does music affect man's physical body? Modern research replies in the clear affirmative, it does. There are scarcely a single function of the body which cannot be affected by musical tones. The roots of the auditory nerves are more widely distributed and process more extensive connections than those of any other nerves in the body. Now, what I've been doing the last 2 Sundays to give you symptoms and to what's going on and why we're sometimes feeling and experiencing things that doctors don't have any real answers for. So I want to make it clear to you that there are some things that that maybe you should check out with a doctor. I'm not against that. Go check it out. Go see what you can find out medically. But it doesn't mean you have to jump in and start taking all the medications, whatever. That's something in which you have to step back again as the observer and observe. So I'm not trying to say all of that is wrong and all of this is right, but I think you got to be discerning as to what. There's some things that if I had a broken bone and I fell down and did something, I'm telling you, I'm going to look for medical. So there's just some things that we need medical for. But it doesn't have to be our source of healing, because we believe in self-healing. We believe the intelligence of the body to heal itself. So I do that. I go to the doctor. I give him a chance. Take a blood test. Well, it looks great. You're in great shape. Or my urologist said to me, I wish I had a prostate like yours. And I'm going, but I have this symptom, and I have that symptom. I don't know, your blood tests show that you're great. If the blood tests don't, then they have a medication for me. There's nothing in between. There's no connection to any cause of anything other than your age. And I've been told that. Why are you worried about it at your age? You're closer to death. Don't worry about it. Have a good time. I've actually had a doctor tell me that. So fortunately, there's other levels of doctors out there than that. There are integrative, holistic type doctors. The thing about it that concerns me is how expensive they are. It's much easier to use my Medicare and insurance and not pay anything to go to a medical doctor than it is to give $5,000 for some program that some natural doctor has, and most of them have a $5,000 program, trust me. I've done a few of them. And it's usually always $5,000. I don't know why that's the price, but that's the price that they charge for their programs. And I'm sorry, the average person is just not going to be able to lay down $5,000. So again, it always goes to the people that already has. And that's why they don't like things like a tuning fork or anything like that. And God forbid you'd find an answer with using your voice. How free is that to use your voice? So I hope that you know a little bit more about the vagus nerve than maybe you did. I don't know. But be aware of it. I would suggest you look it up. There's a lot about it online. And be aware of it and share with others. You might share with some of your loved ones. Share it with your mothers that you have still alive that's having issues or something like that. This is something you can just teach anybody to do anywhere, to just be able to just put their fingers there and just vibrate a sound. And just see if that doesn't change some things and switch them off and into a place in which healing can take place. You can't receive healing until you're in a place to receive healing. That's why just praying for healing does not work. Now, if you're praying for healing from the frequency of receiving the healing, prayer works. But prayer does not work if it's not being prayed from a level or frequency in which the manifestation can find its way in. So that's why prayer is kind of a touchy thing on, do we pray, okay, somebody's sick, I pray that they get well. Well, I mean well, but if that person is in a place where they're attached to their disease or their illness, or they brought it on themselves, or they're using it for something, and people do use their sicknesses, oh yeah, for attention, for power, to control, to manipulate. If that's the case, you can pray the biggest and most beautiful prayers in the world and nothing's going to happen because there is no resonant frequency to receive the manifestation of what you're praying for. And time is up. I'm being shown.
Thank you.
Any quick questions or comments before we? Yes.
If I understood you correctly, I was thinking that you had said something about you were going to show us something about what was the beginning of our illness or what emotional component.
And that's next week.
Oh.
Actually. I was just a week off, but
Okay.
next week we are, I'm sorry. I felt to do this first was important before we go into, so you that have any issues, we're going to take a little bit of time to look up your issue and tell you why you have that issue and what you need to be working with and not the issue. Sometimes we're working with the wrong thing completely. Yeah. So we'll do that. We're looking for the root and the cause, not just trying to fix the effect in that way. So we'll go into that next time. You that have your own tuner, use it on your thyroid. See, she was having this thump, but I use this to vibrate my thyroid every day and my thymus. We need a whole teaching on the thymus. Second to the vagus nerve would be the thymus as the most important gland. Greeks knew it. They know it. They knew how powerful and important the thymus gland was. So you want to keep the vagus and the thymus really activated. And we'll talk about that at some point too. All right. Thymus is right here in the middle of the, yeah, right here. Yeah. Yeah. Thyroid, parathyroid's up here, thymus is about right here, and the breastbone about between the sternum and here. So, I'd love to talk about that sometime because it's an amazing thing that you can use with muscle testing and all kinds of things to find out what's going on for you, what you want to know, do, and whatever. If you have something to give today, it's appreciated. We thank you. I know there's not a lot of us today, but thank you for you that came out today, and we appreciate your continued support.